roll call?
Hold on a second, Bill. Let me start the recording.
Don't forget to turn the recorder on.
Okay, Rick, go ahead.
Ready for roll call.
Roll call, please, Judy.
Gary Bailey,
Present.
John Dooley,
Here.
Kevin Whipple,
Here.
Bill Ernstis.
Here. Okay, approval of the agenda. Any changes anybody see needs to be made? If
I'll move we accept the agenda as written.
seconds, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Judy, the minutes from the last meeting of April the 27th, they're long. Has everybody had a chance to look them over?
I have.
If it's all right with you fellows, we'll just go ahead and approve them as having read them.
I'll make a motion we do that. Unless Judy just wants to read it to us.
Very funny.
By the way, Judy, good job on the minutes. Those were a challenge.
Thanks, yes, they were.
Okay.
Wait,
All those,
Do we have a second on that motion? I didn't hear one.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Minutes approved. Okay, John, financial report, please.
Okay, financial report for the Greensburg Municipal Airport. We have the three accounts in the airport improvement account. Our balance as of end of April, $100,454.34. In the aviation rotary fuel account, $50,268.32. In airport operations, $155,035.27. The total of all three accounts combined, $305,757.93.
Okay. John, you want to report on Jackson County Bank while you're at it?
Yes, Jackson County Bank. Let me grab that real quick for you. In Jackson County Bank, now keep in mind we made a big payment for our properties that we purchased. The principal balance that we owe to Jackson County Bank at this moment, $2,268,471.19. Judy, I'll forward this to you, okay?
Thank you.
The amount we have available for credit, $1,231,528.81. Bill talked to the city clerk treasurer today. Late last week, Thursday or Friday, she mailed them a check for $500,000 from the edit funds that were contributed toward the project, and that will be deposited. And when that comes, our principal balance will go down by $500,000. But that's literally the check in the mail for that. So, but that's our current balances year to date, at this moment.
Okay.
And again, Judy, I'll send you. I've got it on paper. I'll send that to you. I'll email it to you as soon as I close the meeting.
Let's go back just a second on minutes. I overlooked the one for the city for the executive session and the minutes for the Greensburg board for March 23rd. Did everybody get a chance to look at them also?
Bill, I believe you approved the March 23rd last meeting.
We did that last meeting.
That's correct. So we didn't overlook them. Okay.
But you need to do the 24th.
Is Don Tribbett on by chance?
I see his icon.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to address, Mr. Tribbett?
Well, I don't know if it's a new business or just new developments, but just so everybody's aware, and I think you probably already are, but for the benefit maybe of any public that might be listening in, you approved the payments for the 4 property owners at the April 27th board meeting. Bill got in there promptly on April 28th and got the payments made. I submitted an order. I told you that I was going to submit an order, and hopefully the judge would enter the order declaring the Greensburg Board of Aviation Commissioners owners of the property and enabled to do their project. So I had done that. The judge signed that order on April 29th. So that order, and I think Paul's on here too, although I can't see everybody. I can only see the pretty faces. But anyway, Colin, I'm sorry, I see you too. But anyway, it's nice to hear somebody laugh. So we submitted the order. It got signed. We ended up then and submitted the certifications to the auditor last week, and those have not come back file stamped yet. But I've spoken with your county attorney a couple of times because there seemed to be a little bit confusion within the auditor's office as to exactly what needed to be done. And I understand that. It's very understandable in light of the fact that this doesn't happen very often. So we did submit the certifications to the auditor, which means they now transfer those properties onto the tax rolls of the county. And what I started to say, and got sidetracked with my pretty looks people, but Paul Shaffer then had submitted the order that we got on April 29th. He submitted that to the FAA. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a go. We're ready to take their money and get moving on this project. So I'll be glad. I don't know if there are any other questions. I know I sent a couple of confidential attorney-client privilege memos out to the board members. I hope those were self-explanatory, but if there are questions, as long as we don't get into litigation strategy or something like that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Hey, I have no questions. If no one else has any questions, we'll move on to Paul Schick.
Okay. Thank you. And Don, I agree with everything you said. I appreciate your hard work on that and the board's diligence getting those sessions and getting the orders or the payments to the court so we can get those orders. It made the FAA very pleased and NDOT very pleased. Last day, they did come out with a kind of revisited financial plan based on the CIP that we submitted back in January, if you recall. And so they are planning on, and I put it up on the screen for those who can see a screen, and hopefully it's big enough, but the grade and drain portion of the project here in 2020, they have programmed that total cost of $5,055,997. So they're showing a local match in here right now on the spreadsheet, but that actually will be paid by a separate CARES grant that's coming out of the CARES program. So that is going to be, depending on how bids come in, of course, roughly your savings to the local community on this time will be around $252,800, which is a substantial savings on the project. So it's a pretty good deal. Now you can see in 21, they've got the rest of the grade and drain phase on here, and it's slightly different than the way we submitted it. If you look at in 23-24, they have parcels 1, 5, 8, and 9, which are the parcels we just bought. The way we submitted it, we had those parcels being reimbursed in 2021. So I have my notes over here, and we had submitted for a $5.1 million project in that. So right now, if you add up their total on the plant, we're about 364,000 shy in the total overall program. But when you're talking $10 million over the NB and over the 5-year period, that's really kind of an insignificant number at this point in time. The point is, they've got the money in here. Now, when our bids come in, we'll have the exact figures. They'll fine tune those figures accordingly. So, I think this is good news. And talking to NDOT, who had said that our notification that we had secured the court orders came at just the right day, because this was the final day of their meetings, and they were considering whether to keep that $5 million programmed in 20, and that came in right at the right time. So again, it was very excellent by all of you getting that done on that time frame. So nice work. So now yes, go ahead.
Would you be able to email me that Excel sheet you have up?
Absolutely.
Just at your convenience. Thanks.
If you wouldn't mind, Paul, could you just send it to all of us? All right, I'll do something like that too.
Yep, I'll send it to the whole board. Now, you'll want to keep in mind that this is what they call the planning program. So none of these amounts are guaranteed. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. This is their best guess right now. It's all dependent on actual bids, and you really can't count on these dollars till the grant is written. But for
Understood.
Right, these are the best numbers we've got right now. So, so that takes us to the project, and I know I've gone over pieces and parts of this project with individuals at different times, and so the objective here is we want to approve the advertisement, and we'll run through the plan sheets here at a real high level in the public meeting as well. But let's the plan right now is to advertise this project on or around June 8th. The bids then would be due at 2 p.m. on June 29th. They'd be going to the clerk treasurer's office. Now, the 29th, you'll notice, is 1 week after your board meeting. The bid opening doesn't necessarily have to correspond with the board meeting because we're just going to submit it for the grant application at this time. So the board won't really have to take action on the actual grant or any of the awards until we get the back in. So this evening, since we have the land and NDOT's planning on giving you a good substantial amount of money, after we run through the plans here and we kind of go over the concept, I'd like to have the board make a motion to advertise the project, open the bids on the 29th, submit a grant application with all the corresponding professional services documents, contractors' bids, all on the 30th of June, and then we until the FA sends us the grant paperwork. There would be a pre-bid. I neglected to say that. The pre-bid for this would be scheduled on June the 12th at 11 a.m. So that's a day where we go to the site and we meet with the contractors out in the field and we walk the project limits for that. I know this is going to be very difficult to see on your screens. I know I've already tried to kind of go through some of this before the meeting a little bit here, but it's going to be very challenging. This is the scope of worksheet that kind of gives a very high-level view of what we're doing. This dash line, if you can see my cursor here, actually I could pull up a spotlight. So this red spotlight here, this is the outline of where the future runway will be. here is existing runway, the existing hangars, and so forth. These red X's are basically where we want the contractor to drive. So the contractors will be entering the site off of the state road down here, and there's an existing drive. They'll use the NDOT right away to get in. So the existing runway will be open the entire time, and they'll do these grading. Now let's see. Got to zoom in here a little bit so you guys can see, and I'll kind of work from one end, and then we'll go through a few of the more detailed pages. But here on the north end, raindrop shape and this little raindrop shape are our first basins for storing water. And basically, this is going to collect all the water between the state road and the north end of the runway. You'll see these black lines here are a drainage pipe system, and we're going to get into where field tile and all that is in a second. But this line here is an overland flow, so this is a swale between the existing runway and the future runway. But these black pipes are all storm sewer pipes that'll go in. So there'll be a collection basin here, collection basin here. Then from there, we're going to be building up. Now, we're pretty much at grade in these locations on the north end. As you go south, we're having to put in quite a bit of fill. But south, for those familiar, there are basically three major swale lines that go off of the adjoining fields. So there's approximately 200 acres of field that are draining towards our project site. And those hills have field tile underneath. You may be able to see in this drawing the FD- tile line. These are existing tiles that we received from Mr. Beggs on his fields on the tile map. We did not receive any tile maps from the Goddards, and the Soil Conservation would not give us the maps at that time because we weren't the title holder. Now we are, so we can get those. So we'll get those incorporated in. But the tiles follow these existing drainage structures, so we're capturing those into our drainage pipe. You can see right here, we're just going to pick those up. In addition, right before it goes into the pipe, creating these little funny looking detention ponds, and they won't stand water all the time. They'll accumulate water and then drain dry. And the reason there's one at each of these is because the water runoff from the 200 acres, we need a place to put it while it goes into the drainage system. Because as we add impervious area, we can only release the same amount into the stream as was going in prior to. So we have to limit. Our design is a 100-year design storm, and we have to limit the flow down to a 10-year post construction amount to a 100-year post-construction amount. So we have to have these little areas to store the water. And that's what these little basins are. So you can see they're strategically laid out so that will not stage water onto any of the adjoining landowners. It'll all be contained to the airport property. And then it'll enter into the system, into this pipe right here. Then, as we go down here to the south, there's a big pipe that'll come over to a larger basin here. And that larger basin is basically storing all the water that goes down to here. And then it'll release into the natural swale that goes into the creek, into Mud Fork Creek there. So I'll take you through some closer up versions with the contours on here, but this is kind of the high level. Here's the end of the runway, and there's a couple more pipes down here that will some run off and take it around So very high level, that's what that's going to look like. I will, for the members of the public that were concerned about drainage and so forth, we do have this note number 12 down here. I'm not going to go through all these notes, but basically this is our catch-all on the field tiles that we don't know about right now, which there very well could be several, since we weren't given the maps. So when we do encounter these field tile, we are basically going to connect them into our new drainage system, our new storm drainage system, and concrete them into that line. And if they are too low, if the elevation is too low to where they will not connect just because water flows downhill, we need it in a downward slope. If it's too low, then we'll bypass that tile all the way under our project site, because at that point it'll be so deep it won't really impact our project. So the moral of the story is there will be no field tile abandoned or grouted unless it is to be export tile and not used anymore. Any adjoining tiles coming off of any of the other properties will be reestablished, reconnected, or rerouted in our system around, which has been all sized based on the local drainage ordinances. And so that kind of is a very high level of the scope. I'd like to take you through the phasing now. On this screen, it basically shows you what we just talked about, but it's got a big orange blob and a big blue blob. The orange blob it's basically breaking the project into two phases. Phase one is obviously the larger area. Phase two is the smaller area on the blue end. And the reason is because all of the orange can be constructed outside of the floodway. The blue has a little bit that goes into the floodway area. So we're saving that for last because we've got to get a DNR construction of a floodway permit. So this out right here does impact it a little bit, but it doesn't go over the triggering limits right here. So that's why we've broken this into two phases in the event that floodway permit doesn't come in time. But we've got plenty of time. We don't anticipate it being a big issue, but that's why that's broken out like that. So let's fly down through the program here. I'm going to skip ahead a few sheets and get to...
Hey, Paul, can you email this also?
Now, this is going to be too large to email. So on June 8th, there'll be an entire package that's compiled with every plan set on there.
Okay.
And I can make sure every board member has a link to that.
Okay, that'd be good.
So you all have it. I could send out a link of this preliminary as well, if you'd like. But on June 8th, there's going to be the spec book, all that jazz will be all one complete document. This is kind of showing the typical section. There's two different typical sections right now, depending on where you're at on the job site. For right now, this dashed line is where the future runway will be ultimately in the next phase, in the paving and lighting phase that's going to advertise next year. But for this year, we're just building to this lower light line. So you can see when we come back in next time, they'll dig out a little bit of the material that we just placed, but then they'll fill that back and use it for the shoulder fill. So that's where we're there. This gets into, these are plan and profile sheets. I'm gonna go down to the grading plan. because I think you'll be more interested in that right now. The plan and profile shows the future runway center line and the elevations going all the way down, how it ties in. But I think how these basins are graded out is of more interest, because this has the center line in there, it just doesn't show the side view. So you can see those two basins on the north end that we talked about early on. Here they are, all drawn out with their contour numbers and so forth. And yeah, you can start to see the pipes in here and how they connect. So I'm going to work my way down the runway. We're on the north. This little view here kind of shows you where you're at on the project site. So we're all the way on the north end, and this is the station 100 is going to be the north end of the runway. Now we're just down the runway a little ways. You can see it's mainly contoured. Here's the pipe that's carrying all those the water from those basins to the north, to the south. There's inlets every 400 feet per the ordinance, all the way down so you can access it. Here's the above ground swale that we talked about, and it's working its way south. Then we get into that swale becomes more pronounced and is going to enter into a pipe on that side. And then on the west side, here's the runway still in the middle. All these darker lines are the proposed contours. The dashed ones are the existing. So you can see here the existing is coming in to where we're building our embankment, and this is a natural waterway or swale that's coming off of the neighboring field. So here's the little basin that we're going to use to store the water, so it can stage into the pipe without backing up off of the airport property. And then we're going on down the runway, similar to the other ones, but now on the north side we're in a pipe instead of being open swale. And the reason is there's kind of a here, and then there's a street drop off. In order to get these grades to work, the pipe is not offset the whole way, but it's still outside the runway safety area, all from there. And then we've got the inlets here, and then in the bottom right of your screen, you'll see another natural waterway that was carrying water across the field. So again, same concept. We've built a bowl there to stage the water. There'll be a pipe that connects it. The existing, now this one has an existing tile in it. The existing tile will be tied straight to our manhole structure and not into the side of the pipe, which is a better way to do that. Now we're getting down pretty close to the last 1,000 foot of the runway on the south end. And you'll see here, there's yet another natural waterway that was coming across the field on the west side. Again, we've created a bowl here for the water to stage to enter the pipe. Now all this water's entered this pipe, and this is the only under pavement crossing we have. And we did that on purpose because every time you have an under pavement crossing, that's a risk. You got risk for settlement or something to go wrong with the pipe. So you want to try to keep everything out from underneath the pavement as much as you can. But we needed to cross it over here because the terrain to fall off so much, we're not going to have enough room to store it on the side without staying out of the floodway and all that. So over on the east side now, you'll see a much larger basin that begins to develop, and this is storage. So this is just outside the runway safety area. It's 250 feet off, and it goes out to approximately 300 feet to the other side. So it's about 100 at its widest points. It can be 175 feet wide, this thing here. And we'll look at that a little bit more in just a second. But so there's a large pipe that comes across here. This basically is collecting every drop of water from the runway will go into this basin before it leaves the airport site. This is useful for a lot of different reasons. You can store it, but if you ever had a spill or anything like that, this is a good place to stop. If we ever get into using de-icer chemical on the runway, have to have a stormwater pollution prevention plan. This is a good place to do monitoring. So it would be a nice consolidated single discharge type system. Then this is the far south end of the runway. Here's where the future runway end will be, that dash line. You can see where our contours are coming in and joining the rest of the world now. And you can see that, the safety area, it meets grading criteria, but it goes down pretty quickly into that lower area. And then here, the eastern basin, the south end of it is here. There's a pretty large pipe that's outletting that. This small pipe actually brings water off the runway back into the basin, so it's not running directly into the creek. And then it's going to discharge into the natural waterway that's already existed there. This will be wrapped up and some flow control to make sure it's not eroding. And then one thing you'll notice here, from the 30% plan set that we went over last time compared to now, is we used to have a retaining wall in here. And I told you last time that the retaining wall's purpose was to try to keep the fill outside of the floodway. Well, it turns out that didn't work. Even with the wall in there, the extended runway safety area down in this area was still going into the floodway, and it turns out the most restrictive cross-section of the floodway is right here. So as long as we weren't going to be filling past that, now the wall was back in here, which was eliminating some of this fill, but it did improve the situation from a cross-sectional area standpoint. So since the cross-sectional area was at its most restrictive point here and the wall wasn't helping with that, we decided to get rid of the wall and save ourselves a little bit of money. We have plenty of dirt now on the site. That's the next thing I was going to talk to you. So if you recall too, last time we were talking about possibly needing around 70,000 cubic yards. Well, today we're sitting at about a balanced job. There'll be roughly 35 to 40,000 yards of material left over on this job that will need it in the paving phase to build up shoulders, to build the connector to the other runway. So we're going to stop all that on site until the next phase. And at the end of that phase, whatever we have left over, we'll have them haul off. So the job has really turned out from a dirt work standpoint than I anticipated, and primarily it's because of these basins we were in. It's going to help water-wise and from a grading standpoint. So these are a series, and I'm not going to go through every one of these sheets. It's quite boring for the average person, but I kind of show you how all this is mapped out for those who really get into this sort of thing. So this is the pipe that's up on the north end, and there's profile sheets. So this is how the contractors know how to build it, what slope, what angle. So the manhole here. This is a 563 feet of 66-inch reinforced concrete pipe, and that's the slope. So basically, there's one of these profiles for the storm that goes the entire length down there. Every manhole, every pipe is detailed in, and where the field tiles all connect in are all going to be shown on there. So sheets of that. So goes all the way down to the other. Well, that's the. Let's see. western point. You can see where these, when you get in real close, it gets kind of confusing on where you're at on the entire sheet. I'm going to try to get down here to this is what I wanted to show you. One more. This is the outlet from the bigger basin. Got a little, there we are. That's the pipes coming out of the bigger basin. So that's the bulk of the plan set. We don't have the cross-section sheets in here yet. They're still working on those a little bit. Between now and June 8th, they'll have those. And the drainage structure details, those will get added in. But for the most part, the plan set's all like there, and it's form. So do you have questions on where we're at from the plans at this point in time?
Hey, Paul,
Yes.
to what degree of certainty are we that the existing field tile is in good shape and we won't need to be doing much with that?
We're not very certain. Well, I have little confidence in that it's in good shape. But when we intersect it, it will be in as good or better shape than when we found it. We really will take extra care to make sure we preserve those tiles the best we can.
Okay. I got one other question then. What time did you say the pre-bid meeting would be on June 12th?
Oh yeah, let's go back to that. The pre-bid, 11 a.m. and the pre-bid meeting is going to be, we're going to meet at the airport terminal building.
Okay.
So that we can walk out and walk the site. And I should say, this of course is subject to any, executive orders that the governor might have, or any local orders that the mayor might have on actual meetings and so forth. We decided to go ahead and advertise this for a physical presence for the pre-bid because it's a large enough project. We think contractors are going to want to walk the site. But we have done a virtual, and if we get to the point where it looks like we are not allowed to meet, then we will do the pre-bid virtually, and we'll to give the contractors some comfort there. And then on the bid, the receipt of bids will be turned into the city clerk treasurer's office at 2 p.m. And again, we're planning on that being a physical bid opening as well, where the contractors physically deliver their bids to the city or mail them in by 2 p.m. on the 29th.
Great.
I have one question for Don Tribbett.
Yeah.
Don, do any of the former property owners, the four of them, have any of them executed the lease to farm the property here in 2020?
Yes. I've received 2 signatures back, and I'm told the other 2 are on their way.
Okay.
So, and while we went back to me there, let me just kind of interrupt the call a little bit too, but it did occur to me, I should have said, and I think I've told you before, but just so everybody is fully aware, what you paid into court for the property owners and what they now have withdrawn is not the final word on damages. They've all filed exceptions to the appraiser's reports. So we're going to need to get the matters litigated eventually set for trial unless we reach some sort of a resolution. But my understanding, and it depends on the local court, but I'm aware of several courts in the middle part of the state that are not scheduling trials, jury trials, until 2022. So that particular aspect of it could drag out, and that really emphasizes how important it was to get those orders in place, so that you now are shown as the title holder, and you can proceed with your project. But yes, that's all I had.
John, I think that's an interesting slant on this, because they pushed that first parcel reimbursement out to 2023. So that actually, depending on how this all shakes out, as soon as we do get the deal done and we have a final number, we'll of course throw the application in. But it looks like we would have to take time to allow that appeal to run its course. They're planning on making their first payment.
Yeah.
Paul, do you need a motion then to advertise?
I would like a motion to advertise and also to submit the grant application and corresponding professional services agreements to the FAA on June 29th or June 30th, whenever we have all the numbers pulled together.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please, Judy.
Gary Bailey,
Yes.
John Dooley,
Yes.
Kevin Whipple,
Yes.
Bill Ernstis.
Yes. Now we need a second motion, Paul.
I don't think so. I think that'll get us get the bids in and get the grant application in, and before you sign those professional services contracts and obviously the construction contracts, we'll wait for the FAA grant. So you're not really obligating yourself to those services or the construction contract at this time. We're just applying for the grant, and we'll wait for the formal grant offer before you contractually obligate yourself to any of those items.
Okay. How many people do you expect to bid on it?
It's a good question, Bill. I know that we'll have 3 that have expressed interest in it already, and those are the major players. Well, 2 of them are major players that you're used to. Milestone and Dave O'Mara have both expressed interest. And then I had King's Excavating out of Seymour that expressed some interest in coming up and bidding. I suspect, since there's no paving in here, that we'll probably have 3 or 4 additional potential just grading contractors who might be interested in it as well. So we will certainly, as soon as this advertises, we'll certainly get on the contractor outreach and make sure we drum up as much interest in the project as we can to get you the best price.
Okay. Anybody have anything else for Paul? If not, Jerry Scheidler, John, can you put his
Yeah, I think so. Jerry, can you, I've got his phone up next to my computer, so let's see how this looks. Jerry, you're there?
I'm here.
Oh.
You hear me?
We do.
All right. Well, I can report all the hangars are full. We have a person on a waiting list for another hangar. We've had quite a bit of activity at the airport lately with crop estimate going on. And, everything's just fine.
Okay.
Any questions for Jerry?
If not, let's look at approving the bills.
Thanks, Jerry.
we got a considerable amount of money involved, $2,005,067.36. The vast majority of that is for the payments for the to the Decatur County Clerk's office. Other than that, John, with your spreadsheet, do you see anything that we had?
No, I emailed the spreadsheet to everyone that summarizes. It's my own personal summary for the bills. Again, our normal everyday run-of-the-mill bills are less than $1,900. You can see on the sheet, and the rest of it, over $2 million, goes towards our project right there. But they're all listed. They all look kosher to me. But they're of course up for discussion if anybody wants to discuss any individual item. So, did everybody get my copy? I emailed you for my summary of the bills.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody have any questions? If not,
I make a motion.
Go ahead, Gabe.
I make a motion. We approve payment of the bills as submitted.
Second.
Roll call vote, please, Judy.
Jared Bailey,
Yes.
Don Dooley,
Yes, paid.
Evan Whipple,
Yes.
Bill Ernst.
Yes. All right. Any comment from the board or the audience? If not, I'd like to thank Paul. You're doing a great job, and Mr. Tribbett, I think you're doing an excellent job. Just keep up the good work, and we'll eventually have the airport that we need. And Gary, thank you for starting it.
I'm so excited.
It is an exciting time, guys. It's real exciting time.
And thanks to everyone. Thanks to the mayor for his support. In fact, all the mayors through this project for all their support. We sure appreciate that. Don, thanks for beating that deadline. I know it's hard to beat a deadline when you're working against the court system, which is not designed to facilitate speed. But you got the job done. We give her a thank.
Thank you.
Yep. If no one has anything else, I'll adjourn the meeting, with our next meeting being June the 22nd at 7 o'clock. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas.
You still there, Jerry? You bet. Okay. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks. I'm going to end the meeting for everybody now.
All right. Thank you.